Krishna devotees, welcome to Shloka Day. Today's Shloka is Shloka number 10, chapter 14. Rajastamascha Sattvam bhavati bharata.
Sattvam bhavati bharata.
Rajah sattvam tamaschaiva.
Rajas sattvam tamaschaiva.
Tamas sattvam rajastatha.
Tamas sattvam rajastatha.
Forward meaning, translation and Bhagavad by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Rajaha,
Rajaha,
the mode of passion.
the mode of passion.
Tamaha,
Tamaha,
the mode of ignorance.
the mode of ignorance.
Cha,
Cha,
also. Abhibhuya,
abhibhuya,
surpassing.
surpassing.
Sattvam,
Sattvam,
the mode of goodness.
the mode of goodness.
Bhavati,
Bhavati,
becomes prominent.
becomes prominent.
Bharata,
Bharata,
O son of Bharata.
O son of Bharata.
Rajaha,
Rajaha,
mode of passion.
the mode of passion.
Sattvam,
Sattvam,
mode of goodness.
the mode of goodness.
Tamaha,
Tamaha,
mode of ignorance.
the mode of ignorance.
Cha,
Cha,
also.
Eva,
like that. Tamaha,
Tamaha,
mode of ignorance.
the mode of ignorance.
Sattvam,
the
mode of goodness.
the mode of goodness.
Rajaha, mode of passion.
the mode of passion. Tatha, thus.
Translation. Sometimes
the
mode of goodness becomes prominent.
The mode of goodness becomes prominent.
Defeating the mode of passion and ignorance.
Defeating the modes of passion and ignorance.
O son of Bharata.
O son of Bharata.
Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance.
The mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance.
And at other times,
ignorance
defeats goodness and passion.
Ignorance defeats goodness and passion.
In this way, there is always competition for supremacy.
There is always competition for supremacy.
So this begins a new section. The Lord has spoken about the 3 different gunas and how they condition us, and then the yesterday's shloka, shloka number 9, was actually a summary of what the Lord had already spoken about in 8, 7, and 6. So this section, however, it is still under the main section of how the soul is conditioned by the 3 modes. So from shlokas 10 to 13, how the modes actually dominate us by their principal characteristics is what we're going to hear about. So Prabhupada has written a very short purport to this particular shloka. When the modes of passion is prominent, the modes of goodness and ignorance are defeated. When the mode of goodness is prominent, passion and ignorance are defeated. And when the mode of ignorance is prominent, passion and goodness are defeated. This competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these 3 modes. So essentially, although the Lord has not come to that particular shloka yet, Prabhupada is already telling us in this particular shloka. The Lord gave a hint of this in chapter number 2, where Prabhupada is stating that because all 3 gunas bind us to birth, death, old age, and disease, so for those who are actually looking to practice Krishna consciousness, we have to go beyond the sattva guna. The prominence of some certain mode of nature is manifested in one's dealings, in his activities, in eating, etc. All this will be explained in later chapters. But if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the modes of ignorance and passion, which means none of us should lose hope. We can, at a minimum, always be in the mode of goodness. We can train ourselves to come into the mode of goodness, and from the mode of goodness, it's a great platform for us to practice spirituality. Although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. And by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness. That is called Shuddha Sattva stage, which is called the Vasudeva state, a state in which one can understand the science of God. Which means, if you want to understand who is Krishna, of course, Acharyas also say that we can never understand Krishna. If anybody tries to understand Krishna, that means they must have received a mercy of the Lord. It's not possible on our own to understand Krishna, but we can understand Krishna through how Acharyas, through their realizations of the Supreme Lord, have shared those realizations with us. So, if you want to understand God and your relationship with Him, at some point in time, you have to come to this stage, the Shuddha Sattva stage. By the manifestation of particular activities, it can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated. So, just by observing a person's behavior, their attitude, their characteristics, how they deal with general situations in life, testing situations in life, do they get angry, do they get agitated? So, simply by observing another person, you can say what guna is influencing them at that particular point in time. So, the gunas that are influencing us is actually visible to others. Initially, it may not be visible to us. So, really, we need to understand what is the role of the gunas and how do they influence us. And His Grace Chaitanya Charan has written a beautiful explanation of what this really means. Because sometimes simply talking about these gunas and the fact that they influence us, condition us, doesn't really tell us how that is happening and what choices we have. The modes, the Bhagavad Gita explains, are subtle forces that shape the interaction between consciousness and matter. So, consciousness here is the spirit soul, and matter is everything, our physical body, our subtle body, thereby inciting us to action. If we act according to the mode's dictation, then don't the modes take away our free will? So you may think, if modes are so powerful, if the three gunas are so powerful, do we even have free will anymore? Because it seems like the Lord is saying they are constantly competing to dominate. So for those who attended the Gita Sandesh program, you would have noticed we would have used a photograph, a beautiful painting of how the three modes are controlling us like puppets, that we are so attached. Does that mean we don't have free will? No, because they determine the gamut of our choices. They don't determine our specific choice, which means the gunas don't dictate what choice you're going to make. But the gunas dictate the range of choices that you will select from. So your free will is never taken away. Consider, for example, a student appearing for a multiple choice exam. The multiple choices in the answer paper restrict the scope of the answers that the student can choose from. But they don't force the student to choose any one particular answer among those options. So the gunas give you a range of choices. From them, you can select, you tend to select whatever it is that appeals to you. That means that ultimate choice is yours. Of course, it's being guided by the guna that you're under the influence of. Similarly, the modes provide us a gamut of choices. The Bhagavad Gita 14.10 mentions that the modes often exist in a state of perennial competition. In the next three verses, 11, 12, and 13, the Gita informs us of the characteristics that manifest when a particular mode becomes predominant. Which means, if one particular mode is dominating you, what are the characteristics that we can observe? in you. This description helps us recognize when a particular mode starts appearing in our consciousness and becoming prominent. With that recognition comes the opportunity for rectification. The wonderful thing about the Bhagavad Gita is when we hear these explanations and the purpose written by Srila Prabhupada and commentary given by various other senior devotees, then it gives us a mirror and an opportunity of how we can actually change the trajectory of our life. As long as you are under the influence of the three gunas and you're not in touch with the spiritual world or within the spiritual realm, then you're being driven away from Krishna. Just as an enemy can be checked if their intrusion or even if their intrusiveness is detected early on, similarly, we can prevent the predominance of any particular mode in our consciousness if we can detect their appearance early enough. Now that we know, and of course, in the upcoming shlokas also, we'll discover a little bit more about how the gunas are actually operating. Then we have an opportunity to reflect, contemplate, observe ourselves, and take appropriate action. If you're getting angry and agitated, then we know that what's happening and what do we need to do to check it. By our past conditionings and by our present circumstances, certain choices may seem habitual for us. Between certain things, we do by habit, we don't think, we respond in the same way to the same triggers. Definitely our triggers are our family members. So when our family members even do something, say something, we immediately react. So there is a difference between reaction and response. Reaction means it's habituated, you do it just automatically. Respond means you think, contemplate, and then you respond to that person. But what seems habitual is not necessarily unavoidable. The more we become spiritually aware of our best interests, the more we can explore and evaluate the available options from the perspective of our enlightened self-interest. So actually, how is the Bhagavad Gita helping all of this? It is speaking the truth to us and telling us how we are actually controlled. And it is also giving us the option. The Lord, of course, says, if you take my shelter, you can easily overcome the three gunas. The Lord uses the word easily. So all he wants you to do is to take his shelter so that you can overcome and come to the Shuddha Sattva state. So that is a solution. But to know the solution, you have to go to the scriptures. You have to hear from sadhus. You have to hear from Guru. And the more we connect with Krishna through loving devotion, or at least the intention of loving devotion, which means initially we may not have love for the Lord, but somewhere you can also practice by following Acharya's instructions of how to develop that love for them. So the more we connect with Krishna, the more we can transcend the mode's pull. You will observe this in your personal life if you're chanting attentively, if you're every day listening to classes, you will observe how the modes are not influencing you as much as they used to influence you. Thus, we can become increasingly free to put our free will for full and fulfilling use, which means since the Lord has given us free will, we can use that free will to express our love and affection for the Supreme. Instead of using our free will to violate his instructions, if we use our free will to become obedient to the Lord, then obviously that is going to benefit us. So essentially, the Lord is saying the three gunas are always trying to dominate you. Sometimes one guna, sometimes another, sometimes the third.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification. If you'd like to join our classes every day, please check the details in the description section of this video. We look forward to serving you.